Cold? Is this what terrifies humans? Sneered Commander Crixer, his voice laced with disdain as frost collected on his breathing apparatus. Their greatest defense is weather? Laughable. The soldiers of the Zeon 7th Battalion, renowned across the galaxy for conquering inhospitable worlds, stood on the icy expanse of Earth's Arctic tundra. Their crystalline armor shimmered faintly against the muted glare of the pale sun, exhaling clouds of vapor into the biting wind. Even now, the frigid air threatened to seep through the weak points of their thermal systems. Yet Crixer's tone remained mocking, confident. "They scurry like rodents," he continued, gesturing toward the sprawling nothingness ahead. "Let this be their tomb." The squadron stood unmoved, their discipline firm despite the creeping discomfort of their surroundings. Zeon soldiers were genetically augmented to endure extreme conditions, their bodies enhanced with internal regulators for heat, oxygen, and strength. Earth's primitive climate, they believed, posed no real threat. The mission was clear: purge the region of resistance and install a forward outpost. Tactical intelligence claimed Earth's militia forces operated in disorganized clusters. There were no notable weapons, no threats beyond the terrain itself. The humans were survivors, sure, but survivors were simply slower prey. "Activate thermal drones," Crixer commanded, his tone clipped with efficiency. A unit complied, deploying 3 hovering spheres into the air. Equipped with scanners designed to pinpoint heat signatures through miles of interference, the drones buzzed to life. Yet even as they ascended, they seemed sluggish, their movements jerky as frost began to build along their surfaces. "Commander," one soldier muttered cautiously, adjusting his visor. "The drones, they're struggling to function." "It's the ice," snapped Crixer. "This forsaken planet reeks of interference. They'll compensate." But even as he spoke, faint trails of smoke hissed from one of the drones before it dropped with a metallic thud, encased in a sheath of ice. The others froze in midair, their mechanisms grinding to a halt before plummeting to join their fallen counterpart. A grim silence fell over the unit. A voice from the ranks, quiet but insistent. "This cold, it's not natural. It's irrelevant," Crixer shot back, though the growing unease among his troops was palpable. "Technology fails. Zeon soldiers do not. We move." As the squadron advanced, their sleek boots crunching through the snow, the Arctic greeted them with fierce hostility. The wind roared against their armor, whipping with razor-like shards of frost. The landscape, bare and colorless, stretched endlessly, disorienting even the most seasoned of them. "Keep the formation tight," Crixer ordered. "Humans thrive on cowardice and ambush tactics." His words aimed to instill discipline, but his eyes darted warily across the white horizon. It wasn't the weather that unnerved him now. It was the oppressive silence, as though the planet itself were alive and waiting. Hours passed. The squad pressed forward, their steady march leaving shallow tracks in the snow. Frostbite crept against exposed plating, their energy supplies straining to keep internal systems operational. For all their genetic augmentation and advanced engineering, nature's indifference cut deep. Then came the first sign of human resistance. "Commander," called a scout from the left flank. His voice carried a mix of alertness and doubt. "I've found something." The squad hurried to the site. Lying half-buried in a shallow drift was an alien helmet, the unmistakable design of Zeon manufacture. Its surface, battered and streaked with dark stains, hinted at violence. "This isn't possible," murmured Crixer, his breath misting the air. "There hasn't been any engagement yet." Another soldier knelt, brushing frost from the ground around the helmet. "It's ours," she confirmed grimly. "But this armor was decommissioned decades ago, long before the Earth campaign." "Impossible," Crixer growled, but even his iron control was slipping. "Scan the perimeter for heat traces." Before his order was even fully processed, a distant crack broke the air. The sound carried, sharp and deliberate, like a signal through the frozen wasteland. The soldiers snapped into a defensive formation, weapons drawn, visors scanning furiously. "What was that?" someone whispered. Silence answered. The tundra swallowed the sound as quickly as it had arrived, leaving behind only the whistle of the wind. But the change was undeniable now. This wasn't just Earth's climate fighting them. Something, or someone, was watching. Crixer took a cautious step back, his arrogance momentarily faltering. "Stay sharp," he commanded, voice quieter now. "This is no accident. The humans aren't running." His squad continued onward, wary and quiet. Yet with every step forward, the weight of the Arctic seemed to push back harder, the environment itself conspiring to grind them down. It was no longer just cold. It was war, waged by an invisible hand, weaponized by forces unseen. For the first time, Crixer wondered if Earth's defenders had less to do with their weapons and more to do with their willingness to turn the unforgiving environment into their deadliest ally. Ahead, beyond the featureless snowdrifts, an unseen figure adjusted their rifle. Hidden among ice and rock, they exhaled, fogging their scope for a brief second before their breath faded into the void. It had begun. Target identified, the sniper muttered, voice low but resolute. Through the high-powered scope, Commander Crixer's shimmering armor stood out against the Arctic void. He was pacing, barking commands to his troops, but his defiant stance betrayed his growing unease. The sniper shifted slightly in their nest, an expertly camouflaged hollow carved into the side of a frozen ridge. Here, beneath layers of snow and ice, the human was invisible, an integral part of the landscape. Frost crusted the edges of their rifle, but the weapon performed flawlessly, a testament to human engineering designed not to dominate the elements, but to embrace them. The first shot was the sniper's greeting. A sharp crack split the air as the rifle's suppressed report echoed, fading into the howling winds. A split second later, one of the alien scouts crumpled into the snow, their chest plate shattered, the glow of their internal life support dimming. Chaos erupted. "Scatter. Positions. Now." Crixer's command came too late. The aliens floundered, slipping on the uneven ice, their panicked movements making them easy prey. But the sniper didn't fire again, not yet. This wasn't a massacre. This was psychological warfare. For the sniper, every breath was measured, every movement purposeful. The frost-covered terrain wasn't an obstacle, but an ally, shielding them in its unyielding embrace. They had trained for this, not just to fire a rifle, but to wait, to think, and to manipulate their enemy into defeat. From their vantage, the sniper surveyed the Xian soldiers. They were splitting into smaller units now, each scanning wildly for signs of human life. A mistake. The sniper tightened their grip on the rifle stock. Splintered squads were isolated squads, and isolated squads were vulnerable. Another shot, another target. This time, the rifle spoke softly, its projectile streaking invisibly through the Arctic storm. The aliens struck dropped silently, their body disappearing into the snowdrift as though swallowed by the earth itself. No heat source detected. One of the soldiers screamed into their comms, fear cracking through the precision of their words. It's like they're ghosts." Crixer snarled into his own communicator, desperate to maintain control. "They are flesh and blood. Find the position and eliminate them. Use the scanners. Focus." "Commander," one of his officers replied, their voice trembling. "The scanners, they don't work here." Crixer gritted his teeth. Their reliance on technology, so effective across countless worlds, was unraveling in the face of Earth's hostile simplicity. The Arctic was smothering them, freezing their devices, distorting their sensors. But worse still was the unnerving realization creeping through his unit. The cold was only part of the trap. The sniper knew exactly what was happening below. As the Xian soldiers huddled and faltered, their unease growing with every misscan and silent attack, the sniper was already repositioning. No shot was ever made from the same spot twice. Even a lingering breath left behind in the wrong place could betray them. They moved swiftly and silently, using shallow drifts and the natural contours of the land as cover. The aliens' confusion wasn't just because of Earth's weather. It was carefully orchestrated. The humans had no thermal signatures to track, their low-profile clothing absorbing heat rather than radiating it. To the alien soldiers, their predator might as well be invisible. Several meters away, the sniper found their next position, a jagged outcrop, sharp as broken glass, offering perfect sight lines for the Xian group now venturing further from their comrades. Breathe. Aim. Fire. The next alien fell, their visors shattering as the shot punctured their helmet's weak point. Crixer whirled toward the sound, roaring orders to fire in the direction of the attack, but there was no one there. The squad fired blindly into the empty horizon, expelling energy rounds into the wind. The stark glow of their weapons only highlighted their positions further. As dust began to settle over the Arctic tundra, the Xian soldiers were cracking. Frost had caked along their joints and faces, despite their armor's best efforts to insulate them. Exhaustion wore at their muscles, panic clouding their judgment. Even Crixer couldn't conceal his unease anymore, his movements stiff and jerky, his commands increasingly terse. The sniper waited for the perfect moment to deepen their psychological edge. They left a calculated clue behind, an empty cartridge from one of their spent rounds, half embedded in the snow. It was a quiet taunt, a deliberate admission of the human presence they couldn't see. When a Xian scout discovered the cartridge, his panic scream echoed through the barren landscape. "They're playing with us." Even Crixer couldn't ignore the implications now. This wasn't just a skirmish. It was a hunt, and his soldiers weren't the hunters. The sniper watched from afar, their heart rate steady, their breathing even. For all the advanced genetic enhancements and weaponry of the Xian forces, they lacked the patience for war in a world like this. Where they saw unyielding cold, the sniper saw opportunity. Crixer ordered his soldiers to form a tighter perimeter, his voice steady but forced. "Regroup," he said, though the cracks in his confidence had begun to show. "We hold this ground. They will reveal themselves." In response, the sniper chambered another round, the sound faint against the icy winds. Nightfall was coming, and with it, colder temperatures and darker skies. The Xian were already freezing in the open air, and now they would face not just the cold, but the full intensity of an unseen predator in their midst. The sniper's gaze locked on the group again, patient and unyielding. They were just getting started. "Hold your line," Crixer barked, though the trembling in his voice betrayed him. His surviving soldiers clung together, backs to each other, their glowing visors scanning the darkening expanse of snow. The Arctic storm, fierce and unrelenting, howled around them, but it wasn't the cold that had broken them. It was the silence between attacks, the invisible predator picking them off one by one. Suddenly, the sniper broke that silence again. A carefully aimed shot shattered another visor, sending a soldier collapsing into the snowbank, lifeless. The crack of the rifle seemed to echo mockingly. "That's it," Crixer roared, brandishing his energy staff. "We charge. Split into pairs and sweep the area. Find the human, or we die frozen in this wasteland." He moved forward, leading by example. His weapon glowed with violent energy, its vibrations buzzing in the frigid air. The remaining Xian soldiers obeyed reluctantly, fanning out like scattered prey trying to corner their predator. They advanced cautiously, yet their every step betrayed hesitation. The sniper's scope tracked their movement effortlessly. Each Xian soldier was illuminated in perfect clarity through the rifle's thermal sights, their armor radiating faint glimmers of heat against the Arctic backdrop. But the sniper knew better than to strike immediately. Instead, they maneuvered again, circling wide, keeping out of sight. The blizzard masked their footsteps, their stealth born not only of skill, but of an intuitive understanding of the terrain. From atop a rise of jagged ice, the sniper scanned for the weakest link, an alien lagging just slightly behind the others. There, a young soldier, helmet visor half frosted over, lagged a few steps behind their partner. Their posture screamed exhaustion, fear, and growing resignation. The sniper exhaled steadily and squeezed the trigger. The soldier fell before their partner even registered the faint sound of the rifle. Another Zeon froze in panic, unsure whether to dive for cover or run blindly into the storm. "Stick together," Crixer bellowed, his fury cutting through the chaos. "We are warriors. Act like it." But even Crixer knew he was losing them. Their cohesion shattered, their technology faltering. His soldiers were no longer the elite unit he'd trained. They were desperate and afraid, just the way the sniper wanted them. Finally, the sniper made their move to end the game. Positioning themselves on a high ridge, they baited the Zeon troops further into the tundra with a single calculated shot, deliberately wide and audible. The aliens followed the sound, stomping through deep snow, slipping on hidden ice patches. They formed a crude line, their energy rifles humming as they scanned their surroundings. And then the sniper unleashed their final maneuver, an ambush. From 3 separate firing points they'd prepared earlier, they began rotating attacks, each shot striking precisely, timed to create the illusion of multiple attackers. Panic consumed the Zeon. Energy rounds flew wildly into the storm, illuminating the Arctic dark with eerie blue streaks. But they hit nothing. The humans' tactics were more than the aliens could process. Deception layered on deception. "Is there more than one?" A soldier shrieked into their comms, though no answer came. "This isn't just one human," another insisted, hysteria in their tone. They're everywhere." Crixer tried to rally his troops, barking futile orders. But his once formidable unit was unraveling before his eyes. By dawn, the battlefield was silent save for the howl of the wind and the distant call of Arctic wildlife. The Zeon soldiers had been methodically eliminated. The last of them, a defiant lieutenant who had tried to charge the sniper with a plasma blade, now lay sprawled in the snow, his weapon still humming faintly, buried uselessly in the ice. Crixer alone remained. His armor was battered, its power reserves nearly drained, and his steps faltered as he stumbled through the icy waste. His breath came in visible clouds, growing fainter with each heaving exhale. "Come out," he roared, though his voice broke with exhaustion. He dropped to his knees, staring out into the blinding tundra. "If you have the honor of a warrior, face me directly." The sniper obliged not to fight, but to reveal just enough to seal their victory. They crept to the edge of a distant ridge and stood, a silhouette barely visible against the blinding sun that now reflected off the ice. Crixer blinked, trying to focus, but before he could comprehend the lone figure, a final shot rang out. Crixer slumped forward, a neat puncture in his chest plate. His energy staff fizzled and went dark. The sniper approached the scene cautiously, rifle in hand. They scanned the bodies of the fallen, ensuring there were no signs of life, before they vanished back into the storm, leaving the field of battle as desolate as they'd found it. The Zeon battalion had been utterly destroyed, not through brute force, but with calculated precision and unyielding patience. Humanity's mastery of terrain and resilience had turned the tables. The Arctic hadn't been a battlefield. It had been a weapon. As the sniper disappeared into the snow, the quiet tundra bore witness to the message sent across the stars. Earth's strength lay not in raw power, but in the relentless adaptability of its people. If you were leading the Zeon soldiers, How would you adapt to fight someone like the Arctic sniper? What tactics or strategies would you suggest to avoid being outmatched? Let us know in the comments.